Why are these things always so hard to open? Okay, look at this. We all expect cheese to do this, but why? What's actually making it stretch like that? And does every cheese do it? So I picked up a bunch of different cheeses: shredded cheese, sliced cheese, block cheese, string cheese, even cottage cheese and American singles. And some of these are the exact same type of cheese, just from different brands. So I want to know two things. Does the brand actually make a difference? And what happens to cheese when you shred it, slice it, stretch it, or process the hell out of it? All right, let's start with the shredded cheese, Kraft versus Sargento. And before we put either one under the microscope, I just want to see if there's anything obviously different about them. Alrighty, before we start zooming in, just remember what we're looking at here, you guys. This is only about 1/32 of a single piece of shredded cheese. Just this tiny little piece. Okay, now let's see what's actually on it. So here we are at 40 times with Sargento, and already look at this. You can see these larger pieces of cheese scattered around the slide, but look at all these little round droplets and tiny particles around them. None of that was obvious when we're holding this stuff up to our hands, right? And remember, this is just a tiny fraction of one shredded cheese, but 40 times is really not giving us the big picture. So let's get closer. Okay, now we're at 100 times, and now we're getting right up against one of those larger pieces of cheese. Look how thick and dense that is. The middle almost looks like a big solid wall, but around the edges, you can see these thinner, almost transparent areas. And there's still all the smaller stuff surrounding it. But we're only at 100 times, so let's keep going. Okay, now this is getting interesting. We're at 400 times, and look right along the edge of the cheese. That surface is definitely not smooth. There's all this rough, grainy looking material around the outside. You've got little particles, clumps, all kinds of stuff going on here that we couldn't really see with our eyes. And this is where I started wondering, what exactly are we looking at? Because remember, this isn't cheese that I shredded myself. This came straight out of the bag. And pre-shredded cheese can have other ingredients added to help these little shreds from sticking all back together. So keep that in mind when we're looking at this, because we're going even closer. So 1,000 times, and look at that. That little piece of cheese we started with doesn't look anything like shredded cheese anymore, but now we're seeing this really irregular structure. There are tiny pockets, little clumps and particles, and all of this is happening on a piece of cheese so small you can barely see it sitting on the table. Okay, so now we're looking at Kraft at 40 times, and those bigger orange chunks are the actual cheddar cheese. What you're looking at is basically the cheese matrix. It's a network of casein proteins holding on to fat and moisture. And all those smaller irregular pieces scattered around it, those are tiny fragments of that cheese matrix that broke away when I prepared the sample for the slide. So now, the perfectly round circles are a little different, but some could be fat-rich material released from the cheese, but some could also be tiny air bubbles from me preparing the slide. All right, now 100 times, and here you can get a much better look at one of those pieces of cheddar. The darker, thicker area is a cheese matrix itself. And around the edges, you can see smaller pieces breaking away from it. Now remember, we're not looking at individual proteins here. Those are way too small to see with this microscope. We're looking at the larger structure those proteins help create. So now we're at 400 times, and this is where it really gets crazy. Look at how rough that cheese actually is. What looked completely smooth sitting on the table is really that irregular network of cheese material with tiny fragments surrounding it. And there's also some really fine material around the surface. Because this is pre-shredded cheese, some of that material could be coming from what's coating the outside of the shred. But from the microscope alone, I can't tell you exactly what each particle is. We'll come back to that. So finally at 1,000 times, we're looking at the really fine structure of the material from that tiny piece of cheese. We're still seeing fragments of that cheese matrix along with tiny particles and some of those round structures, but here's something I really want to point out. More magnification doesn't always mean more information. At 1,000 times, the area that's actually in focus is incredibly thin, and things like air bubbles and slide preparation artifacts can suddenly look enormous. So for this particular cheese, I actually think 400 times gives us a better overall look. So why am I setting cheese on fire? Because this is my life, you guys. I want to see how these two cheeses react to extreme heat. Cheese is mostly water, fat, and protein. The moisture heats up, the fat melts, and eventually the cheese starts to char. If one reacts differently, that gives us another clue. All right, let's burn some cheese. All right, here we go. I'm gonna try to speed it up for you guys, but initially, here you go. And right away, it smells like plastic. speed it up for you, and there you go. It smells and smoking really bad for Kraft. Here's Sargento. Let me take a scoop right out of here. And it's funny, I had one guy in the comments say, dude, you need to get some hobbies. Well, this is my hobby. Anyways, here we go. Here's Sargento. Let's light it up. Let's see how long this takes. Okay, I don't smell anything yet. No plastic. That's a good sign. You speed it up. Same total time as Kraft, and it took not as long to burn as Kraft, so good sign. Alrighty then, guys. We're up to the sliced cheese. I know, your favorite, and Kraft singles. This is a mystery cheese right here. So when you open this up, let me take a sample of this. Let me tear it open for you here, and all right, y'all know how this works. All right, let's go ahead and grab the Great Value Walmart sliced sharp cheddar cheese. Let's see if I can open this damn thing. There we go. Let me pull a slice out, and it feels thicker. Oh, wait a minute, I have two. Okay, I have one. And it seems cheaper than, obviously, Kraft, but okay, here we go. Let me take some samples. Okay, so here is what I have to go through to get this sample from the cheese. I scrape a little bit, as much as I can off the top right here. You see how it accumulated on the scalpel right there? That's just enough. I'm gonna grab my slide and smear it on there kinda like that. And then I'm gonna go ahead and grab another slide, and I'm going to put the other slide on top of this one, and I'm going to do a quick smear. So check this out, just like that. There you go. So now I'm going to add some methylene blue. It helps to look at things a lot easier, not too much because you don't want to oversaturate it. And let's grab some glycerine here. It's like distilled water, but a lot thicker. It's like gel. It's clear, so you can see things a lot easier. So we mix this in together. And a cover slip. Put this on. We should be good to go. Hopefully you guys can see this. It's a 4K phone here I'm filming, so there you go. Let's see if you can see this. There we go. That is the Kraft singles. Okay, you crazy lab rats, here it is, the slide I just prepped for you guys. And we're at 40 times, and this stuff has already been through heat before it ever gets to your refrigerator. And during processing, the cheese is heated enough to melt the fat and start changing the proteins that normally hold cheese together. So we're at 100 times, and you can really see how broken up the structure is. And that's important, because once you heat cheese like this, the fat, water, and protein don't naturally want to stay together. Left alone, they'll start separating. So at 400 times, we're getting an even closer look at what's left at that structure. And this is where Kraft singles are kind of clever. During processing, everything gets mixed back together so the fat and water stay spread throughout the cheese instead of separating out. And here at 1,000 times, we're looking at past everything your eyes could ever see. But the important part isn't just how weird it looks, it's what all that processing does. You'll end up with a cheese that's incredibly consistent, stays together when it gets hot, and melts really smooth. Okay, so here is Great Value at 40 times, you guys. And right away, this looks a lot different from the Kraft single. It's much more irregular with larger pieces of cheese and smaller fragments scattered around. So at 100 times, you can really see the uneven structure here. These solid areas are the cheese itself, and that network of milk proteins holding on to fat and moisture, there it is. So now at 400 times, look how rough and broken up this is. Unlike the Kraft single, this cheddar hasn't been melted down and processed into that same smooth, uniform product. We're looking at something much closer to the structure created during regular cheese making, and that's a good sign. So at 1,000 times, we actually lose detail here. The sample is too thick for the light to actually pass through, and that's good, you guys. In this case, more magnification doesn't really give us a better picture. But you put them side by side though, and that's pretty cool. They may both come in slices, but under the microscope, they're definitely not the same cheese. Okay, we made it to the block cheese. Finally, you guys. Anyways, this is Tillamook, and Great Values on my left. Let me open up Tillamook for you right here. I'm gonna cut it right down the middle with my X-Acto blade. Let me cut about halfway, and I'm gonna open it up, the block itself. So there you go. Cold to the touch, feels pretty good. Now let's move over to Great Value. Cut it right down the middle here, about halfway open. And let me cut it here and let me open it up for you. It looks the same, feels the same, but a hell of a lot cheaper. So let's go to the microscope. So here's Tillamook at 40 times magnification, and those larger brownish chunks are pieces of the actual cheddar. And all that finer material scattered across the slide is cheese debris that broke away when I prepared the sample. So you can also see a few perfectly round circles. Those are just air that was trapped underneath the cover slip. So compared to the processed cheese we just looked at, this already looks a lot more fragmented and irregular, which is good. So we're at 100 times, and we're right up against two of the larger pieces. The dark centers are the thickest parts of the cheddar, where there's simply too much cheese for the light to pass through the microscope. Around the edges, though, it gets thinner and you can start seeing those grainy structures. That's the actual cheese material, mostly the protein network holding the fat and moisture together. So we're at 400 times now, and we're looking at the really fine material that broke away from those bigger pieces. You can see these tiny irregular clumps and fragments spread across the slide. And this is a sharp cheddar, so while this cheese was aging, enzymes were slowly breaking some of those proteins into smaller pieces. That protein breakdown is part of what gives aged cheddar its more crumbly texture and stronger flavor. It's pretty cool. So at 1,000 times, check out this huge round thing. That's almost certainly not some giant cheese cell. It looks much more like an air bubble or something introduced while I was preparing the slide. But around it though, you can still see those tiny irregular fragments of cheese. And this is a good example of why you have to be careful with microscopy, because something can look really impressive at 1,000 times and have absolutely nothing interesting to do with the cheese. So here we are with Great Value, which is a Walmart brand at 40 times. And compared to Tillamook, these pieces are much bigger and denser. The brown areas are chunks of cheddar, and those little round circles, those are air bubbles. So 100 times, you can really see how dense Great Value is. The cheese is so thick in places that light can barely get through. And Tillamook broke apart into smaller pieces. Did you guys notice that? But that could easily be from how I prepared the samples, but I doubt it. So at 400 times though, they start looking a lot more alike. These grainy clumps are tiny fragments of the actual cheese. And both brands have that same rough, irregular cheddar structure. So at 1,000 times, I really don't see a huge difference between them. What do you guys think? Great Value looked chunkier at first, but once we get this close, these two block cheddars were amazingly the same, except for the price. All right, remember this thing from the beginning? We've looked at shredded cheese, sliced cheese, block cheese, but none of them pull apart like this. So what makes string cheese string? String cheese is actually made a little differently. During manufacturing, the cheese is heated and stretched, and the stretching lines up with the proteins into these long parallel strands. And that's why when you pull it apart, it actually peels into strings. So the question is, can we see any of that under the microscope? Okay guys, here it is, Sargento string cheese at 40 times, and those big ribbon looking pieces are the actual string cheese. You can already see that instead of breaking into little chunks like the cheddar that we looked at, this cheese is pulling apart into long strips. So now 100 times you can see it even better. Look at all those little lines running through in the same direction through the entire cheese. That's the structure we were just talking about. The cheese was stretched in one direction when it was made. And at 400 times, this is really cool. Those long parallel looking bands are still there. We're not seeing individual protein molecules, but we are seeing the larger structure created when those proteins were stretched and lined up. And here's 1,000 times, even this close, you can still see that same direction running through the cheese. And that is what string cheese is. And last but not least, your dreaded cottage cheese. Let's take a look. And now for your viewing pleasure, cottage cheese. Those big white masses are the actual curds. Yeah, I know, gross, right? And the darker areas between them are the liquids surrounding the curds. And this is completely different from everything else we've looked at. Cottage cheese isn't pressed into a solid block. The curds are left loose and surrounded by moisture. That's why it stays soft, lumpy, and wet instead of becoming a firm piece of cheese. Now let's leave this microscopic world and find out, what did we learn? So, what did we actually learn today, guys? We learned that cheese is a lot more complicated than it looks. Shredding it, aging it, heating it, stretching it. Every one of those steps can change the structure of the cheese and the way it behaves. We saw the difference between processed slices and regular cheddar. We saw 2 different brands of block cheddar that actually looked surprisingly similar. And with the straight cheese, we could actually see that long stretched structure that lets it peel apart. And I think that's the coolest part. On the outside, these are all just different packages of cheese. But once you get down to the microscopic level, you start seeing the science behind why they're different. And apparently, I'll never look at string cheese the same way again, or cottage cheese. Take care of yourself and others.